3 bone-chilling fears of Carl Jung that haunt your life forever. In the shadows of our minds lurk fears so deep, they chill the very marrow in our bones. Carl Jung, the grandmaster of the psyche, unraveled 3 fears that sink into the soul like ice in water. What if I told you that understanding these fears can change your life? Imagine creeping dread at the idea of the unknown, wrapping around your heart, leaving you breathless and clammy. The first fear, the fear of abandonment, gnaws at our core. What if we wake up one day, utterly alone, like a solitary ship lost at sea? Syncopated waves crashing against the hull. That feeling bubbles up like a raw itch no one can scratch. But there's more. Jung's second revelation strikes even deeper. The fear of the unconscious. Can you picture it? An abyss swirling beneath our consciousness, a labyrinth where our darkest thoughts fester. What secrets lie there? Doubts, grudges, regrets, each waiting, biding their time, ready to claw their way back into the light. The hairs stand on the back of your neck, right? It's not just theoretical, it feels personal. And the last, the most bone-chilling of all, is the fear of death itself. Imagine standing on the edge of nothingness, staring into the void. You may laugh. It's just part of life, after all. But deep down, beneath layers of bravado, your chest tightens, your breath catches the thought of your mortality whispers. What happens next? The stillness is deafening. Each heartbeat echoes in the silence. This is more than intellect. It resonates within our very existence. Hey, before we continue with this amazing story, I need to give you an important heads up. Many subscribers have reported that YouTube unsubscribed them without warning. Take a quick second to check the red button below to make sure you're still subscribed to the channel. I'd hate for you to miss any of the exclusive content coming soon. And while you're there, smash that like button. It really helps me out with the algorithm. Oh, and tell me in the comments, which city are you watching from? I love getting to know every amazing person who's part of this community. Your participation makes all the difference. Let's connect. So there you are, standing amid your fears. The stark reality of these 3 looming over you like dark clouds before a storm. Will you run from them, or face the truth lurking in the dark corners of your mind? How are these fears infecting your daily life? What if embracing them might be the key to unlocking your true self? Just linger on that thought for a moment. The grip of anxiety wrapped tightly around Kelly as she stood alone in her dimly lit apartment, the shadows of her fears creeping steadily closer. The distant sounds of the city pulsed like a heartbeat outside her window, but inside, silence reigned heavy and stifling. Images of abandonment danced in her mind, ghostly figures of friends who had drifted away, family who had lost touch. What if it happened again? What if she woke up one day to discover everyone had vanished, leaving her empty, echoing through those same 4 walls, gasping for connection? She shook her head, trying to dispel the panic gnawing at her core, but it only deepened with each passing moment. That fear, the fear Jung described with such precision, lodged firmly in her throat, making it hard to breathe. Abandonment wasn't an abstract concept. It was the taste of cold metal on her tongue and the sharp edge of loneliness that sliced through her soul. But this wasn't just a helpless feeling, it was a choice she had been making all along, pushing people away, erecting walls, convinced it was easier than risking connection. Then came the darker thoughts, like foul whispers from beneath the abyss. Questions rose unbidden, clawing at her sanity. What lay hiding in her unconscious? All those secret regrets and old grudges resurfaced, glaring at her with accusing eyes. Memories of decisions made and paths not taken haunted her. Fear of the unconscious enveloped her like a fog, twisting reality into something sinister. Did she even know who she was beneath this suffocating haze? Sweating now, she thought of death, the final frontier. That cold embrace awaited everyone, a truth everyone flippantly acknowledged but rarely confronted. What happens next? Echoed in her mind as she paced her small living space, every creak of the floorboards amplifying her existential dread. The thought of oblivion loomed like a black cloud, heavy and oppressive. She pressed her hands against her chest as if to steady her racing heart, feeling the inevitable pull of that void. Suddenly, a loud thump echoed down the hallway, shattering the silence. She froze, her heart pounding wildly. Had someone really knocked? Was there someone waiting outside? Fantasies of lurking dangers began to whirl in her thoughts, reminiscent of some horror flick. The hero never embraces the fear, only succumbs to it. She knew she had to decide run or face it, but this was no ordinary encounter. Something stirred within her, pushing her to confront what lay beyond that door. Her fears had been breeding monsters in the dark, but was it truly a horror she feared, or was it a chance at uncovering the truth of her own resilience? Taking a deep breath, she stepped toward the door, every nerve ending screaming in protest. What would happen if she opened it? With each heartbeat, her resolve hardened. The shadows might contain answers, or they might consume her. But she knew she couldn't remain entrapped any longer, a prisoner of her own making. Grasping the doorknob, she felt the cool metal, a reminder of the choices ahead. There was no turning back. Just as she twisted it, the door creaked open, and the world beyond lay waiting an unfolding nightmare or an astonishing revelation. The choice was hers to make. But just what awaited her in the darkness? The door swung wide, revealing an empty hallway. The flickering light above cast eerie shadows that twisted and turned, forming shapes that made her heart race faster. Was it just the bad wiring, or was something truly lurking in the gloom? The air was thick with anticipation, like an unseen force holding its breath, waiting for her next move. Kelly hesitated, taking a cautious step forward. The scent of damp plaster and faded wallpaper filled her lungs, but it was the overwhelming silence that sent a shiver down her spine. Even the distant city noise felt muted, as if the world had decided to hold back its chaos for just a moment. She listened closely, straining for any sound, a whisper, a footfall, anything to break the tension. Then came an odd creak from the far end of the corridor. It was almost like a voice, low and gravely, beckoning her onward. The instinct to flee was strong, yet curiosity and dread intertwined like a menacing dance in her chest, urging her to press on. "Hello?" she called out, her voice surprisingly steady against the quaking of her hands. The response was the soft echo of her own voice fading away, swallowed by the shadows. Gulping, she stepped further into the hallway, her feet muffled against the worn carpet. It felt like walking on a thick layer of secrets, each step uncovering things best left buried. The old, faded wallpaper peeled away in patches, revealing scars of damp and neglect. As she moved past the doors lining the corridor, she felt eyes watching her. Had she imagined it? Or was something truly hiding behind those wooden barriers, waiting for an invitation to join her in her solitary world? A door creaked slowly open to her left, groaning like a wounded animal. Kelly's heart lurched as she turned, her breath hitching in her throat. The room beyond was bathed in darkness, but she could make out the shape of furniture draped in white sheets like mummies entombed from the living world. It beckoned her closer, a siren song familiar yet terrifying. Swallowing her fear, she ventured inside. The air was stale, thick with a sense of abandonment. She reached for the nearest draped chair, her fingers brushing against the dusty fabric, and suddenly images flooded her mind. Faces from her past, friends she had pushed away, family she had neglected. Each picture ignited a spark of guilt that ignited her stomach into knots, and took a firm hold of her heart. A sudden crash echoed from the back of the room, startling her. The sheets fluttered like wings in a sudden wind, and she spun around, eyes wide. Had something moved? Was she truly alone? "Get out!" A voice suddenly rasped from the darkness, a chilling command whispered through clenched teeth. She stumbled backward, her pulse racing as the realization washed over her. she was alone. The shadows danced closer, and panic threatened to swallow her whole. But even amid her fear, a bitter thought arose. Was this the haunting of her own making? Or was the voice in the dark a reflection of her own self, the very fear she had tried to ignore? With her back against the wall, Kelly steeled herself. If she was going to face this terror, she needed to confront the darkness within. Was it possible to blend past regrets with present fears into a form of strength? Just then, the light flickered violently, and she caught sight of a figure emerging from the shadows. A familiar silhouette, twisted and distorted, stepped into view. "Are you ready to remember?" it whispered, lips curling into an unsettling grin. What had she awakened? The walls trembled with her fear, and her breath hitched as she prepared for whatever reckoning awaited her. In that suffocating moment, she knew one thing: the confrontation was over. But was she ready to face the truth? The figure stepped into the flickering light, its features blurring between familiarity and horror. It was a mirror of her own self, a ghost of her past. The grin widened, revealing a darkness in its eyes that felt all too real. Kelly's heart thundered in her chest, each beat echoing the weight of forgotten memories clawing at her. "Remember who you were, Kelly," it taunted, voice slithering through the stale air. "You can't escape the truth forever." A shiver danced up her spine, igniting every instinct within her to flee. But the shadows felt like chains, keeping her rooted to the spot. She thought of the past, the people she once loved, the choices that led her here, every mistake sharpened into crystal clarity. Would facing this specter of herself force her to reckon with those wrong turns? "Why now?" she whispered, fear making her voice tremble. "Because every moment you ignore it, you pull the noose tighter around your own neck," the figure replied, tilting its head, a grotesque imitation of empathy. "You have to let them go. You have to let yourself go." The room swirled, air thickening as memories surged like a tidal wave. Kelly saw faces of her parents, once warm and inviting, twisted with disappointment. Friends she had abandoned, now mere echoes of laughter haunting her mind, turning into accusations. Their voices layered together, sharp as knives, cutting deeper than the layers of grief she had tried to bury. "No!" she cried out, fists clenching, knuckles white against the urge to give in. "I want to listen." The figure laughed, a hollow sound that echoed through the room like a death knell. "Not listening has brought you here, hasn't it?" It gestured to the dark corners, shadows crawling with memories of her mistakes. Kelly pressed her back harder against the wall, the dampness seeping into her skin like all those suffocating regrets. The air grew hotter, thick with the heat of self-doubt and long-buried emotions. Could it be true? Was the darkness merely a manifestation of her fears, or was something genuinely haunting her? "Face us, Kelly," the figure demanded, stepping closer, its form shifting and distorting as if trying to peel away the layers of her defenses. Terror gripped her, but in that moment, something fierce ignited within. She had hidden behind her past for too long. What if confronting this reflection was the only way to break free? The thought flooded her, with a surge of courage, a desperate need for liberation. "Fine," she shouted, shock vibrating through her voice. "If you want me to remember, fine. Show me what I'm afraid of." As the words left her lips, the room plunged into darkness. The flickering light extinguished, and the figure vanished, leaving her alone in suffocating silence. Her heart pounded, a frantic drumbeat, as shadows began to shift and form around her. Just then, a cold breeze washed over her, whispering secrets she'd long drowned out. It felt like the past was rushing forward, eager to swallow her whole. Fear scrabbled at her mind, but she wouldn't let it consume her. "What is it you want from me?" she asked, her voice trembling yet resolute in the vast emptiness. But the darkness ignored her. It simply swelled, pressing in closer, and she felt the weight of so many unanswered questions. She had awoken something, But did she have the strength to face what was coming? As the shadows began to stir, she realized she was teetering on the precipice of something monumental, a reckoning she could not escape. The echoes of her past began to assemble before her, forming shapes and figures, and she braced herself for what lay ahead. But just as they took form, a loud crash rattled through the corridor, and the lights flickered back on, illuminating a doorway at the far end that she had not seen before. A distant laughter echoed, a symphony of past and present blending into a single haunting melody. Was this another chance to confront her fears, or a trap laid by her own mind? She took a deep breath. This was just the beginning. And then, she stepped forward into the unknown. What awaited her on the other side of that door? The door creaked open, swallowing her with its dark maw. An ominous chill swept through Kelly, tugging at the edges of her resolve. Every instinct screamed at her to retreat, yet the allure of the unknown was powerful, pulling her closer. As she stepped over the threshold, an eerie glow flickered, shadows danced across the walls, and whispers flitted around her like moths to a flame. A twist of unease settled in her gut, but she pressed on, compelled by a surge of defiance against the specter that had confronted her. "Show me what you have," she called out, the bravado in her voice belying the tremor in her knees. The whispers escalated into a cacophony, voices layering over one another in a maddening symphony. Memories flooded back, sharp as glass. Her mother's tear-streaked face, her father's disappointed silence, and the echoes of laughter that morphed into accusations. "Forgive us," one voice pleaded, barely audible over the thrumming chaos. "Shut up," she screamed, hands pressed to her ears, trying to drown out the relentless tide. But her own voice was muted, drowned in waves of guilt that crashed over her. She stumbled forward, and suddenly the room transformed. Instead of shadows, she stood in a vivid scene from her past, a family gathering, laughter bouncing off the walls, the smell of her mother's favorite rose filling the air. But as she looked closer, the joy twisted into a grotesque parody. Her family now wore masks of rage and disappointment. "Leave me alone," she shouted, anger surging within her. "I can't change the past." They advanced toward her, faces melding into a tapestry of anguish. "You never tried," they chorused, and the ground shook beneath her feet, cracking open like an unhealed wound. "No!" she screamed, stumbling back. The weight of their disappointment pressed heavily on her chest, suffocating. With every step backwards, she felt the familiar pull of her past tightening around her. Before she had time to think, a voice cut through the clamor. "Knowledge is freedom, Kelly." It was the figure again, its face now clearer, more defined. "You have to accept what you've done. Only then can you move forward." The walls around her shimmered, showing glimpses of moments she had tried to suppress, arguments with friends, opportunities lost, love left unreciprocated. Each memory a new cut, and she winced at the sharpness. The past wasn't merely haunting her, it was a part of her, woven into her very being. Kelly clenched her fists and took a deep breath, grounding herself. "You're right. I can't erase it. But I won't be defined by it either." With that resolve, she stood tall against the swirling storm of memories. Light flooded the room, brightening every shadow, every accusation, until they began to dissolve in the glow. The figures in front of her, her past shimmered and faded, replaced by echoes of understanding. The laughter morphed once more, but this time it felt lighter, less oppressive. "You can find peace, Kelly," the figure whispered, a warmth radiating from its presence. "Let go." As clarity washed over her, the room began to shift again, forming new shapes that felt inviting rather than menacing. Kelly could sense the possibility of a brighter tomorrow, but just then, a blast of cold air swept through, extinguishing the light. The laughter grew distant, fading into haunting echoes that threatened to engulf her once more. In the dark, a new silhouette emerged, sinister and towering. Too late, Kelly, it growled, voice a chilling growl that raised the hairs on her neck. You can't escape your fears forever. Heart racing, she realized she was not alone in this reckoning. A deeper darkness was looming, one that demanded confrontation. What fresh horror awaited her in the darkness? Would she be able to confront it, or would the shadows once more claim her? Kelly's breath came in ragged gasps, panic clawing at her insides. The looming figure was a nightmarish embodiment of her innermost fears. It swayed like a predator, its presence filling the room with a heaviness that threatened to crush her spirit. Look at what you've done, it taunted, voice low and oily. All the chances you let slip, by how many lives did you ruin in your wake? No, she asserted, trying to push back against the suffocating fog wrapping around her mind. I want to let you do this. The figure stepped closer, shadows spilling like ink from its edges, swirling around Kelly's feet. They felt like the hands of her past, dragging her toward the abyss. She was back in that moment, the weight of regret settling hard on her shoulders. Yet the warmth of resolve flickered within her, a light she refused to let extinguish. Your guilt binds you. It howled, and her memories erupted like a volcano. Images flashed in her mind, broken relationships, dreams abandoned, friendships severed by her hands. The cacophony of their criticisms echoed loudly, filling the empty void around her. You're selfish. You don't deserve happiness. You could have saved us. Each voice stabbed at her with relentless precision, each accusation a dagger. She clenched her fists tighter, biting back tears. Was this her legacy? The realization wrapped around her heart like a vice, squeezing tighter with each verbal assault. But in the chaos, she caught a glimpse of something warm and bright, the figure's earlier words reverberated within her. Knowledge is freedom. She could feel an ember of strength pushing against the darkness, a surge of truth rising from deep within. I did the best I could, she shouted, her voice a challenge to the chaos. I was human, flawed and scared. The shadows twisted, as if recoiling from her defiance. You think that excuses you? The towering figure leaned closer, its breath freezing. Look at what you left behind. And suddenly, she wasn't just observing. She was back in it, living through the tumult of her past. The moment she chose ambition over family, the day she walked away from love, the silence that followed her every decision. But something shifted. As she faced each memory anew, she felt the old anguish beginning to crack. I can't go back, she murmured, but I can forgive myself. I have the power to change my future. The shadows howled with rage, swirling ominously, as if her words had thrown salt on a wound. You can't shake me, Kelly! It screamed, but she stepped forward, summoning every ounce of courage. Maybe not, she countered, her voice steady. But I can choose to put you behind me. It's time to let go. With a burst of clarity, she lifted her arms, drawing strength from the flickers of hope that surrounded her. As she spoke the words, their weight felt lighter, the grip of her past beginning to loosen. I am not my failures. I am not the pain. I am resilient. The shadows shrieked, their forms flickering wildly, as her declaration resonated through the air. With a burst of light, the room transformed once more. The figure contorted, twisting into something unfathomable before bursting apart in a shower of darkness. Kelly opened her eyes, now surrounded by a warm glow. The oppressive heaviness was gone, replaced with a soothing serenity. She stood, breathing in the air full of promise. Yet, as she turned to explore, a chilling possibility crossed her mind. What if this was just the beginning? A familiar voice broke the silence from behind her, laced with menace. You may have escaped me this time, but shadows always return. She spun around, heart racing. Who was there waiting for her now? What new terror would she have to face to reclaim her life? The figure emerged from the darkness, and even in the warm light that enveloped Kelly, Its presence felt like frigid air slicing through her resolve. It stepped from the shadows, revealing a familiar face twisted with malice. It was a version of herself, distorted and unrecognizable. The eyes were hollow, devoid of warmth, reflecting her deepest regrets and fears. "You think you can just erase me?" the apparition shrieked, every word cutting like glass. "You can't outrun the past. I'll always be here." Kelly's heart pounded in her chest, each beat resonating with dread. "No! You're not real," she shouted, but her voice wavered, doubt bleeding through the armor of conviction she had just built. The figure laughed, a grotesque sound that echoed in the walled space around them. It was the laughter of all the what-ifs and should-have-beens that taunted her at night, just before sleep would bring respite. "You think declaring yourself resilient changes anything? You're still that scared little girl who ran away from everything." The walls began to vibrate with tension. Kelly felt the ground shift beneath her, memories flooding back in a rush, each one painting a vivid picture of her failures. The time she backed out of the family business, the instant love slipped through her fingers, the friend she wounded with harsh words. Each scene ripped through her with an electric shock, and she could feel her strength waning. Suddenly, the once warm glow around her flickered, growing dim as the figure advanced. "I know your secrets. I know the darkness you hide from everyone," it sneered, inching closer. The breath of the apparition chilled the air, creeping along her skin like icy fingers. Desperation clawed at her throat. "You can't escape me. Not in this life, not in the next." Yet within the suffocating grip of horror, Kelly remembered the flickers of warmth she had found before. "This isn't the end. It's just another battle," she decided, kneeling to ground herself. "I can face you. I will face you." The apparition faltered for a moment, confusion flickering in its glassy eyes. "Face me? Why would you do that?" "Because," Kelly replied, rising to her feet, mirroring the shadow-esque stance, "I have learned that fear is just a reaction. It's what I do with it that matters. You don't own me anymore." With those words, the warm light pulsed back to life, temporarily staving off the darkness. A sudden surge of strength ignited in her core, radiating out like ripples in water. She stepped closer to the figure, unafraid and resolute. But the figure's rage ignited anew. "You think you can defeat me? I am the echoes of your failures. Your worst thoughts made manifest." It roared, the room quaking in response, shadows spasming as if in agony. "I will not succumb to you," Kelly declared, her voice ringing out clear and strong, just as a crack of thunder roars during a storm. "I refuse to let fear dictate my life any longer." Just then, the apparition lunged, shadows snapping toward her, tendrils reaching out like living smoke. Kelly braced herself, determination hardening her stance. Then, in the eye of the storm, clarity struck. "Every fear has a name," she thought, recalling the words of a wise friend. "To fight it you must speak it." "Abandonment!" she yelled, feeling the power of the word flood through her. The shadows recoiled, hesitating as if struck. "Regret?" she shouted, and the dark figure shuddered, its form wavering, exposed by her truth. "Guilt!" The final word burst from her lips, sharper than any knife, driving the dark figure to its knees. The room vibrated with energy, light throwing off shadows, like fireworks bursting in the night sky. A blinding flash erupted, and Kelly felt herself drawn into the light. She gasped, realizing she wasn't alone anymore. Shadows flickered around her, but they were not menacing. They were fading, shrinking. As the brightness enveloped her, a new voice emerged from the echoes. "You may feel free for now. But remember, every battle has a price." Kelly staggered back, disoriented. Had she won? Or was there a greater fight yet to come? Lurking just beyond the glow? As she blinked away the brightness, the outline of a new figure emerged in the distance, watching closely with a knowing smirk. "Welcome to the next chapter. it said quietly. Fear surged within her heart once more. What would she face now? The figure before Kelly stepped fully into view, its smirk transforming into a grin that was both unnerving and oddly familiar. It was a representation of her inner critic, a reminder of all the doubts that lurked in her heart. You've tasted victory, but do you think it lasts? The voice was smooth, yet coated with venom. You've only scratched the surface, sweetheart. Panic grazed the edges of her mind, but she staunchly stood her ground, fueled by the ember of strength still flickering inside her. What do you mean by that? She asked, her voice steady despite the tremor within. The figure gestured around, and the surroundings shifted. The so-called warmth morphed into the bleakness of a desolate landscape, remnants of her past mistakes littering the ground like discarded shells. Welcome to the terrain of regret, it proclaimed. Here, your fears are amplified tenfold. Kelly swallowed hard, feeling the ghost of her former self grasping for her. The barren place was an uncanny reflection of her struggle. Shadows of doubt danced in the corners, whispering all the moments when she felt unworthy. This isn't real, she insisted, clutching her fists as if she could physically grasp her determination. Oh, but it is, the figure urged, its voice like ice. Embodied in every moment you hesitated, every chance you let slip. Suddenly, colors swirled throughout the empty expanse. Kelly recognized flashes of her life. The unfinished art project that lay collecting dust, the investment opportunity she let fear talk her out of, and the friendships that faded when she put up walls. Each image struck her like a whip, initiating a vivid reminder of her struggle. Look at these memories, the figure urged. Every mischance has left a mark, hasn't it? How do you feel? A lump formed in her throat as she fought off the shame rising within her. I won't let you manipulate me, she insisted, moving forward. I'm not that person anymore. Isn't that cute? It taunted, stepping closer. But the past doesn't go away, does it? It's just waiting for your weak moments to rear its ugly head. In an act of defiance, Kelly shouted, I name you. I name you doubt, regret, and guilt. You have no power here. Each declaration reverberated through the empty space. But the ground trembled, and the figure leaned in. You think naming them will change anything? That's all you have, words? How easy it is to hide behind bravado when the truth is, you fear being stripped of everything you think makes you you. The atmosphere shifted, becoming dense with vulnerability. Each word felt like jagged glass. Kelly's breath caught in her chest, and she was suddenly transported into a memory that wasn't very distant, sitting alone at lunch while others laughed, feeling the weight of isolation bearing down on her. You see, it doesn't really go away. It's rooted deep. The figure's tone turned silky, coaxing. All you need is a single moment of weakness, and you will find yourself back here, with me. No! Kelly shouted, battling the rising tide of despair. She had fought so hard to break free, not just for herself, but for everyone who had struggled against the same shadows. I'm ready to own my fears. I want to give in. A storm of swirling lights erupted as Kelly uttered those words, forcing the figure back momentarily. The shadows screeched, struggling against the brightness she summoned. But as the light tore through the darkness, it revealed more than she bargained for. Wispy silhouettes of people she had let down began to materialize, their eyes void of understanding, echoing her doubts. See? The consequences, the figure hissed, a wicked edge to its voice. You can't escape them. Kelly staggered, her heart pounding. Would she have to face all of this head-on? Could she handle not just her own fears, but the repercussions of her actions on others? You have more to confront than just yourself, Kelly, the figure continued, a taunting melody in the chaotic silence. Are you ready? The flickering light around her dimmed, dark tendrils creeping in. Defiance coiled tight in her chest, but the weight of uncertainty began to settle. And then, Just as everything seemed to converge into chaos, another figure appeared, this time a soft glow radiating warmth. "Trust in your journey," it whispered. "Healing is within you." But the question loomed larger than ever. Was she truly ready to face both the past and the fallout? The shadows twisted, and darkness loomed nearer. What awaited her beyond the light? The price of freedom felt insurmountable. The light flickered and fizzled like a dying bulb, uncertainty gnawing at Kelly's insides. The glowing figure trying to offer her comfort shimmered, barely holding its form against the dark tide that swirled hungrily, eager to engulf her. "Trust," it breathed gently, but the shadows pulsed with an energy that screamed otherwise. As she stood there, rootless and trapped between two forces, Kelly's heart hammered in her chest. The familiar shapes of her past crumbled and swayed like fragile smoke. "What are you?" she cried out. "What do you want from me?" The lurking figure smirked again, its eyes gleaming with something sinister. "You're playing with fire, darling. You can't just wish away your past. Consider it your greatest teacher, whether you want it or not." With every word, the silhouettes of the past became clearer. Faces she had let down: her mother, disappointed and hurt; her best friend, turned away; laughter that faded to whispers behind backs. Each was a dagger to her heart, carving doubt deeper. "I'm sorry," Kelly faltered, guilt colliding with anger. "I'm trying to change. I can't keep feeling like this." "Trying is just the beginning, sweetness," the figure replied, its voice steeped in disdain. "The real work lies ahead. Ask yourself, can you handle the burden of your decisions? Or will you retreat back into the safety of denial?" Without thinking, she stepped toward the figure. "I refuse to deny anything anymore. I'm here. I want to set things right, make peace with your ghosts." Then, it interrupted cruelly. "Face the reality of who you are, the failings, the broken promises, the heartache. But remember, they will always be part of you." The air hummed with tension as Kelly closed her eyes, battling the storm brewing inside. She felt each regret coiling around her like chains, but somewhere in that darkness, a flicker of resolve ignited. She could choose. It wouldn't be easy, but it was a path only she could walk. "Show me," she demanded, voice firm. "I will face them head-on." A wide grin spread across the figure's face, revealing sharp teeth. "Your courage or desperation amuses me. Very well, let us begin. Step forward." As she took a calculated step into the void, the shadows expanded, swirling around her, faces emerging with the sharp clarity of sorrow and fury. "You thought you could escape us." The faces surged forward, contorted with anger and disappointment. Kelly's heart felt like a drum pounding against her ribs. They moved closer, melding into a single monstrous entity. The air thickened with their accusations and sorrow, a cacophony of past failures gaining volume. "Say you're sorry," they screamed in unison, drowning her in their combined grievance. Kelly's knees felt weak, but she steadied herself. "I'm sorry. I'm so sorry," she shouted back, her voice cracking. "But I can't change the past. I can only learn. I can only grow." Her words shattered the darkness, a brilliant flash filling the air. The cacophony fell silent, leaving only the buzzing hum of that tension hanging like static. The darker figure lingered in the edges, watching her with a mix of concern and amusement. "Interesting, your courage, but can it last? Are you ready for the next step?" Before she could respond, the ground began to shift under her feet, splitting apart. A chasm unfolded beneath her, shadows pulling her down into an abyss. The last thing she heard was the echo of the figure's laughter. "Let us see how far you'll go to earn your freedom," and then darkness swallowed her whole. Would she plummet into the depths of her despair, or could she reach for the light that promised redemption? The gravity of truth hung heavily over her as she descended. Kelly fell through the darkness, the weight of regret pressing down, a suffocating blanket. It felt infinite, the black nothingness stretching into eternity. Memories flickered like strobe lights. Moments she wished to forget flashed and whirled, each one screaming for resolution. No! This isn't how it ends, she thought, a new determination rising within her. Suddenly, she landed on solid ground, hard and cold, like slate beneath her feet. The shadows swirled around her, whispering secrets of her past and her failures. But now she stood tall, heart pounding, ready to confront not just the memories, but the hurt they held. If I'm here to face my truth, I'm doing it on my terms, she declared. I won't let you drag me down. With a fierce breath, she faced the sea of shadows looming. I see you. All the failures, all the pain, I own them. But you don't get to define me. The shadows hissed, flinching as if struck. She felt the power of acknowledgement coursing through her veins, and suddenly a light began to glow at her center. That light expanded outward, illuminating the darkness. Now she could see the faces, familiar yet twisted in agony, hurling accusations. But instead of fleeing, she stepped forward. I am sorry. For the times I hurt you, for the chances I let slip through my fingers. But I'm not running anymore. I'm ready to move ahead. The air grew charged, the shadows coiling around her like smoke, brittle tendrils retreating as her words cut through the blackness. You have to forgive yourself too, Kelly. It's the only way out, she urged, the light intensifying with each word. You have the power to break free. As the shadows writhed angrily, they began to unravel, each spray of darkness revealing strands of light, fragments of joy, love, and the possibility of redemption. Kelly caught glimpses of laughter shared, hands held during tough times, love freely given. This is who I am, she shouted. Resilient. Human. And I won't let your darkness overshadow my truths. The luminous energy swelled, pushing back against the encroaching darkness, engulfing the figures in bright light. And the air shifted. Something shifted. The shadows began to dissolve, their forms dissipating like mist. We have been waiting for you to acknowledge us, one echoed, softer, as its presence faded. I know now that you're part of me, but you can't hold me captive anymore, Kelly asserted, standing her ground as the last remnants retreated. The room around her began to transform, bright colors bursting forth, reflecting warmth and comfort. She breathed a sigh of relief, the overwhelming pressure lifting. Suddenly, the familiar figure stepped back into view, still twisted but partially illuminated by residual light. You thought you could defeat them. But remember, they may return when you least expect it, it taunted. With knowledge comes strength, Kelly countered, feeling empowered. I will rise above again. I'm choosing healing and happiness. She stepped away from the figure, and toward the newfound light. The spotlight enveloped her once more, washing over her in waves of warmth. Embrace the future, called a chorus from the very shadows she had conquered. You are the architect of your destiny. With every fiber of her being, Kelly stepped through that radiant door. The scene shifted again, landing her back in her apartment alive with sound and color, sunlight pouring through the windows, illuminating her surroundings. She was home. The echo of shadows still lingered, but they felt different now, less daunting, more like reminders of her strength. She took in a deep, grounding breath, gratitude swelling in her heart. I am alive. I have a choice, she whispered. The warmth danced through her, and the fears that had once pinched her with their icy grip now faded into a familiar hum, a reminder of a journey traveled and strength earned. Kelly knew she wouldn't forget her fears, but now she wore them as armor rather than chains. The truth was simple. Every fear could be faced, every battle could be won, and every wound could heal. With resolve, she grabbed her phone, and a fierce spark of motivation surged through her as she remembered the power of connection. It was time to reach out to the friends and family she had pushed away, to share her journey and embrace those who remained. She knew the fight with the shadows was not truly over. It was part of her forever. But today, she chose light over darkness. Taking a step towards the door, she opened it wide, welcoming the world back with open arms. You need to subscribe now, so you don't miss any more exclusive stories. Smash the like button now to feed the algorithm. Flood the comments section with your reactions about Kelly's journey and your own battles. And don't wait even one more second to share this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this conclusion. Your support makes all the difference.